Okay, hi Joseph, warmly welcome for this important training session, the HazCom, the hazard communication. And since we have hazardous materials being used in our industries, either we belong to construction industry or even manufacturing or food or wherever we are working, we are occupied with certain type of chemicals actually. So we truly need to understand what kind of hazardous materials are there and how why they are hazardous, and on the other side what are the best controls actually as per our uh, experience, as per international SDS like safety data sheet or different kind of international standards as well. So that is why this training is becoming more and more important, especially in oil and gas industry, because everywhere we are certain kind of chemicals, especially I would say the hidden chemicals. Like let's take an example of H2S, which is a terrible monster, it can kill in seconds. So that is why it is very much important to understand how this HazCom system is working, why this hazard communication is important. So Joseph, is quite a straightforward understanding. Like if you have a chemical store, even at your site or within your company, the moment someone is visiting, either is from your customer side or any regulatory body or even the visitors, any sort of visitors, including your subcontractors, whosoever is visiting, if he is going toward this chemical area or kind of chemical storage area, of course there must be first of all this permission system, right? You can't allow anyone to go anywhere at your site, especially the prohibited areas. But if someone is allowed from your side, then that area should be communicating to me. Either that is a chemical store, it should tell me how many chemicals are there, what kind of chemicals are there, like something visible through like maybe a list of chemicals, maybe some SDS of each chemical to be displayed at this point. So this system should talking to me. And if I'm looking at one chemical, that label should also tell me what is the flammability level or kind of health hazards or what PP is required or what specific measures I need to bear in my mind, before I even touch to that chemical. So it's a system which communicate to us by itself actually. But if it is not there, or if our employees don't understand effectively that system, then things can go out of control in certain cases. Let me give you one example. In one of the company, I was uh, like, because I'm the safety auditor as well, so it was a printing section. So I noted three gentlemen, like one was Filipino, let me mention the nationality as well, and one from Nepal and one from India. Now, this printing section, to be very honest, it was truly suffocated with plenty of chemical compositions. A lot of unbearable odor was there. And I shocked, one of the gentlemen, he's not using the mask even, the disposable mask. Even that mask he was not using. And it was truly shocking for me, because for me, even as an auditor, even with mask, it was hard to stay there for 5 or 10 minutes as well. But on the other side, I noted one of the gentlemen, he is just wearing this disposable mask. Okay, still something is better than nothing. But one, uh, the Filipino, the great man, I would say, he was wearing the NIOSH approved air purification mask actually, which is quite expensive. No, that was the point I started discussing. I asked that gentleman, do you have any friendship with your safety department, or how come you got this expensive respirator actually? On the other side, one is not having mask and the other one is only using disposable mask. So, I still remember the golden words. He mentions that, look, if company doesn't care about my life, does not mean I should start killing myself. My life is not that much cheap. I'm here for my family. So a company is not providing me appropriate PPs, the suitable one. Because if I'm wearing even the disposable mask, still contaminated kind of smell or including, toxic dust still going into my lungs. So what's the benefit? But that is why I thought, why not to purchase the right suitable PPs from my own pocket, That's why I invested. I purchased this respirator by myself, and just to keep myself safe, for me, for my family. Even though later on we recognized the gentleman, we awarded him with a certificate and we gave him some kind of reward as well. But on the other side, immediately that management decided to terminate the safety manager, because he was the one daily visiting, including the safety officer, I would say. That every day they were ignoring the same scenario, because it was a regular practice for them to visit that area. So this kind of mindset, sometimes we need to educate, and this kind of mindset we truly need to bring as a role model in front of others as well. Now, just to make story short, one of the gentlemen who was not wearing even the disposable mask, he was almost above 50 years old. Joseph, the moment I asked him, why you are not using mask, even the disposable mask, what's the reason actually? So I still remember he mentioned, look, sir, where were you before 10 or 12 years, because now my mind is addicted. I can't live. I can't be alive even without this chemical smell, or like thinner, retarder, and certain kind of inks were there, because it's a printing section. So where were you before 10, 12 years? Because now it's horrible for me to live without such a smell or such kind of chemicals. And trust me, Joseph, I was speechless. I was speechless with that mindset, how we are the one killing people by not letting them follow the right set of safety rules and regulations. Why we are failed to create an effective safety culture where people feel empowered and having a safe work environment, and with all the basic facilities actually, which is their human right as well. That is why the safety system have clearly three basic reasons to be implemented. Like, we are ethically responsible, and on the other side, financially it's very much beneficial. And of course, our customers, they are also focusing, that all the time they will not award us any contract until we prove that we have a solid safety system well implemented actually. That's why they ask a lot of safety policies, procedures. And to be very honest, in the policy we are very straightforward. Oh, we will make sure 100% safety of our employees, 100% safety of the environment, we will not damage anything, 100% compliance of legal laws actually. But on ground reality, I hope you also understand what is happening at the ground. But still, we are optimistic, things are getting changed. The mindset, the people started thinking that the health is truly the wealth. So that is why we are having some better changes, especially now every company knows there is a social media, the horrible media, I would say. Within 4 minutes, one video viral from your company, the bad video, your brand is over. Or any sudden death because of such kind of chemicals, or let's take an example, some incident related to H2S. So the brand goodwill gone means your business is over. So that's why now companies are taking it serious. And on the other side, the customers are also putting more pressures on the contractors to ensure better health and safety system, not only in the documentation, but on ground actually. So to be very honest, with this story, I realized how much it is important for us as a safety leader to be very much, trained, especially as a change ambassador, as a mind changer. Because we know, Joseph, we can manage maybe more than 10,000 machines quite easily. But dealing with 100 different brains, or if you have 500 employees, there are 500 different brains. So each brain is entirely different, right? Even the background, the education level, the kind of nature of each individual is quite different. So how are you gonna bring them all in one direction, one goal, that your safety must be your key priority or your first priority? But this HazCom this has come, Joseph. It's not like only for you. I would suggest from janitor to general manager, everybody must be trained for two segments. One is hazard recognition, and the second one is HazCom as well. Because now we have hidden enemies in shape of toxic gases, in shape of viruses even. Let's take an example of COVID-19 even. So it's a game of awareness, because awareness is the first foundation, to bring any positive change within our companies, especially the culture. Now, I really want to hear something from your side. How do you understand what is chemical actually? How would you describe actually? What is your understanding, Joseph? Because chemicals, I told you, we have everywhere, even at our
Yes.
home.
From my understanding, chemical is a substance that is used for a certain matter, like, and also it is corrosive or it is reactive to other materials.
Okay, so that means it's kind of a mixture of different ingredients or a reaction of different molecules. And excellent, mashallah. And now the next part, which we really need to understand, in which shape we can get this chemical, or what are the types of such chemicals. So let's talk about the types of chemicals. And I hope one type we all understand, the gas, which I always call invisible enemy, like ammonia, like H2S, carbon monoxide. Certain kind of chemical have their certain properties. Like if you will not handle them properly, they will be toxic. They'll go in the air. Inhalation would be terrible. So of course, even a touch to our skin, as you mentioned, they are corrosive as well. So it's very much important to understand the types of chemical, before even we talk about HazCom. So three types are there. One is solid, and the second one is gas, and the third one is liquid. Now, Joseph, since you're also an experienced professional, I can judge quite easily. What do you think? Which one is more easier to manage? Like, which type is more easier to manage? Either solid, liquid, or gas in shape of chemicals?
The solid.
The
The
solid.
solid. Yeah.
Solid, because we just, like if we have a coating industry, we just coat either the pipelines or any, whatever products we have, or even the walls. Like if we are painting the walls, it's quite easy. I totally agree with you. Now, why liquid and gas are more difficult to manage? What are the root cause? I mean, why we can't manage them more effectively?
Because uh, the first thing is it is free flowing. You can spill it. You can spread it around easily.
Absolutely right. Because liquid means, if let's take one example, one practical scenario we can discuss, one kind of a case study we can discuss. Imagine, Joseph, we both are responsible as a procurement team members, so we are the one going to buy some chemicals. It can be any chemical, and in shape of liquid, in shape of drums, in drums, in big drums, we are going to buy some chemicals. Now, if you are based in Hubar or Dammam and the manufacturer is in Riyadh, now we need 100 chemical drums, and the manufacturer mentioned, you are the one responsible, because the terms are settled ex factory. Because the moment chemicals came out of the factory, the responsibility of factory is over. Once the chemicals are loaded on our containers, either we hired the third party logistic company or the transporting company, or we have our own trucks, whatever. But because the terms are defined, even the sign, it's an X factory. The moment chemicals are loaded, the manufacturer have no responsibility anymore. We want to inspect, we can inspect during loading, even after loading. But once the logistic truck started the journey towards our side, manufacturer responsibility is over. Now my question is, how would we, what precautions we have to put in place So there shouldn't be any chance of spillage, like you mentioned, because it's a liquid. There shouldn't be any chance of falling down, any chance of fire incident, any chance of blasting, because they are the tickling bomb sometimes, especially in shape of gases, like if we are buying some compressed gas cylinders, they are also chemicals, right? So they are the
Yes.
tickling bomb. So I hope you got the point. From Riyadh to Dammam, how would we make sure that nothing will go wrong actually? That is our first challenge, because manufacturer clearly mentioned once the chemicals are loaded and you just started, your truck just started the journey, our responsibility is over. So what would be our key important steps to follow, or kind of the safety rules to follow, so we can avoid any unwanted scene?
Yes. I think we should have a standard procedure to follow
Excellent,
whenever we put anything that
excellent,
contains chemical.
great. So SOP is very much important, but SOP means the easy to understand and accurate as per international standards, because sometimes SOP itself is missing some of the important steps, or might be ignored some of the critical technical points, which are not mentioned in the SOP, because the biggest room in the world is the room for further improvement, right? So no one is
Yes.
100% perfect. So sometime I noted, I'm talking as an auditor also, because even though for the last 19 years I've been working as an auditor, as a trainer, as a management consultant, but as a safety auditor, I'm telling people are lacking plenty of things even in documentation. And one of the terrible part I noted, every SOP, against every SOP, we have some checklists. We have some formats to fill in. But these formats or checklists, we think these are just tick, 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 like a formality. And we don't stop on every checkpoint and make sure that exactly it is done and it's 100% sure, then I can tick. Like if I'm ticking, yes, the 100 drums are loaded securely. Tick. The 100 drums, not a single one is leaking. Even after the loading, each drum is being verified and no drum is leaking. Tick. But what if I'm not checking at all? Just one shot and tick, then nothing is leaking. The drums quality or the coating of the drums is excellent. There isn't any chance of blasting. They are kind of attack approved, or they have some blasting resistance. The material is good. The drums quality is perfect. Then I'm ticking. And how I'm checking this drums quality might be some other reports required from the manufacturer prove us that these drums quality is excellent and they are made for this chemical. Now how I'm going to make sure that the overall container, or kind of the surface, there isn't any spillage or any uh, oil or petrol or any kind of other spillage, uh, which can definitely, because of a fire incident, God forbid, on the way. Then how I'm going to take it that the drums are securely loaded and tied up, that there isn't chance of any wobbling or hitting to each other. And if we know the friction means or hitting to each other, that means the chemicals are getting more power. That's why we have NDT or so many other tests, to make sure the material is excellent of that particular area or item. Now on the road, how are we gonna make sure, oh, driver is certified? Tick. The vehicle's condition, especially the tires quality, is excellent. How are we gonna, oh, driver is guided and there is a proper route planning, the safe route planning, because routes are so many, but the safe route is well guided to the driver, and our driver or the logistic company, our subcontractor, they are qualified people and they understand how then we take. No, luckily nothing, Alhamdulillah, everything was okay, and the chemicals came at our side. Now the real challenge is the unloading. Unloading of 100 drums, Joseph, what precautions you are going to follow you? Of course, you will make
Yes,
sure,
hello.
you will make sure that the forklift operator, first of all, is well trained, certified, and he knows what can go wrong, God forbid, if any sort of silly mistake will be there. Even on the drum, what is the pellets quality? Because 500 kilometers from Riyadh to Dammam, the travel is there. What is the quality or kind of condition of all the pellets? Probably the wooden pellets, you know. And now, what is the capacity of the forklift? The weight of the drum, and how is going to unload one by one, or if you are stacking 3 drums at a row, like one, sometimes we do silly things. You know, we make a pallet of 2 drums and we expect our forklift operator is a genius guy, so he will manage, you know. He will unload and even stack back on the racks with the same. But how he can be lucky every day, every time, you know? No, luckily all the drums are safely unloaded. Now another challenge, the internal transportation, like from unloading area to the warehouse might be 100 meters, you know. So during this internal transportation of 100 drums, how are we gonna make sure, again, like you mentioned, the spillage, or nothing will fall down and, you know, there isn't any chance of incident, God forbid. Okay, now internal transportation is also done successfully. Now you are supposed to stack on certain racks, you know. Now the terrible point is, which we mostly missed, you know, what is the capacity of the strength, the weighing capacity of our racks, you know. And what load is already there? Because our focus is production, do the things as quick as possible. And this is kind of a human nature also, you know. And people have tendency to take shortcuts. That's another phenomenon we need to bear in our mind, actually. Now, during the stacking, again, job is done and the person is fully experienced and qualified. And Alhamdulillah, it all went well, you know. Now the challenge is, one of the department required 1 drum. So now another process is de-stacking. Or again, you know, bringing down 1 drum and then through the hand trolleys might be going to that department, you know. Now these drums, do they have proper labels that everybody can easily understand what is inside? And actually, either we verify that the same thing is inside, or like you have a label of water, but inside you have thinner. Or you have water, but outside you have thinner label, you know. I hope you got the point. So wrong labeling or wrong product with the right label, God forbid, but inside the wrong product is there. Both way, it is truly terrible and drastic, you know. We are chopping up the elephant, Joseph, to understand how HazCom system should be working actually. It's not like only the label. Labels are there, but what if your employees don't understand what is the meaning of red color or the number? If 4 is there within the red color on the label, what does that mean? What if they don't understand, you know? So luckily, the de-stacking is done securely, and then the drum is issued to the relevant department. Now they are going to open it. So what is going in the air? And what nearby the activities are going on? Any hot work going on? Any welding activity? Any kind of abrasive blasting or cutting or grinding, or how are we gonna make sure not a single drop of chemical is falling down at the ground? Joseph, it's a huge challenge, that every stage not a single drop of chemical is falling on the land, because it's an environmental violation as well, right? That's
Yes.
why every project of Saudi Aramco, especially, even Royal Commission, even I would say Star and some others, now specifically they are hiring, already they hired even most of the projects, the sector environmental coordinator. Not like only the safety officer always. We need the right person for the right job, in each particular area. Now, if the chemical, this drum is being opened and issued through small containers, how are we going to make sure not a single drop of chemical is touching to our skin, or the fumes going in the air, they are not touching to our eyes? What kind of PPs we are providing them? So all are challenges, just to tackle the complete supply chain, or kind of the complete process chain, to handle all these chemicals, But ultimately, the challenge is we don't want to see any sort of incident or accident, to our properties or to our employees, even the biggest asset of any business. So that was the example of liquid. How are we going to manage on each stage? And okay, this drum is issued in 100 small different containers. Now, what if 20 containers don't have any label? Or the label is there, but ink is faded, so nobody can read easily. That means the HazCom system is demolished. I mean, it's because chemical is not talking to us, unable to talk to us, because the label is faded, the label is removed, or might be the label is unintentionally removed or not pasted well, whatsoever the reason. But ultimately, on that particular process, the HazCom chain is broken. Now, the real challenge, what I personally noted, the awareness of our employees, the end user. Joseph, out of my 3,000 plus training sessions for the last 19 years, trust me, hardly I got even a single one who mentioned, yes, I have studied all 16 sections of material safety data sheet or safety data sheet of even a single chemical. All 16 sections. Like if you have 20 chemicals, have you ever studied all the 16 sections of MSDS of each chemical? Have you got this time or such kind of necessity? Have you ever felt?
No.
Of course not.
Yes.
That's why Saudi Aramco also understand the nature of human brain. So they created another document. We call it CHB, Chemical Hazard Bulletin. Because they made our life easy. Okay, at least you try to understand the key parts. So this can be displayed, or people have tendency whenever they have lunchtime, or even I noted, in toilets they are placing now. So might be you spend some time there. So at least you keep refreshing your knowledge. What kind of chemicals, especially you are using, the hazardous chemicals, which are very much corrosive, extremely flammable, and even quite damaging to the environment as well. Now, I totally agree, we can quite easily manage the solid, but The liquid is of course a little bit difficult. We discussed the whole chain. Now let's talk about the terrible monster in shape of gas, this chemical. Now this kind of gas, whenever we are playing with nature or changing some organic compounds, so of course certain gases are being released from the nature, from the land, in shape of H2S, in shape of other toxic gases. Now how we gonna manage these invisible enemies actually, and keeping our employees safe? And for each invisible chemical or kind of gas have different properties, and how we gonna make realize to our employees, because they are the affected persons. Me and Joseph might be, after giving some training or some counseling or some toolbox meeting, we'll sit back to our office, to be very honest. But the real challenge is to transform our knowledge in the brains of the affected persons, the people who are going to work into that area. Might be a confined space, might be any danger zone, where there is a possibility of certain kind of toxic gases. Let's take an example of refineries or GOSP, gas oil separation plants, or even oil rig sites, or any construction sites like excavating a lot of trenches. And so if such kind of industries are there, how we gonna make sure that everybody understand what is in the air, what can come in the air actually, by doing certain processes or different kind of activities within at our project sites actually. Ultimately we are serving to our customers. Our customer wants, okay, serve me but don't kill yourself. And we want our employees to tell, please serve us but don't kill yourself. That is why now it's clearly mentioned, your safety, first of all, your responsibility. If you are lacking knowledge, you should come to the manager. Okay, I'm lacking knowledge, I don't understand this process, can you give me some training? Now we need that type of culture, instead of we are running behind them.
Yes.
Even Joseph, I noted in one of the company while signing the consulting project, even this employment letter or kind of employment agreement, we mentioned this term there also, that your safety, your responsibility, these are your basic safety responsibilities. Either you are a welder, painter, excavator, crane operator, whosoever you are, even a general manager, your area, your safety, your responsibility. First of all, if any electrical issue is there, call us. If there is any maintenance required for any element, just call us, inform us. Instead of waiting that somebody should come, even though we have daily safety inspections, but still it's a blessing, trust me, that we are supporting them every day. Otherwise, my area, my responsibility, my life, my responsibility. So that kind of vision now we need to give to each brain, and this is the biggest challenge we the safety leaders are facing. Because I told you, managing 1,000 machines or 10,000 machines are quite easy, but dealing with 100 different brains is, of course, not an easy challenge actually. So again, let's talk in project shape, kind of a case study. Imagine, Joseph, you and me got a project from Saudi Aramco. There is a big oil storage tank that is leaking. And now they want us, Ishtiaq and Joseph, you are the one, your team should come and resolve this issue. And we signed the agreement and we agreed nothing will go wrong, that everything will be as per your expectations, as per your SOPs, as per international standards, nothing will go wrong. But now on ground, to make sure all these things, what steps we have to follow? And I always divide every process in three different domains or kind of three stages, like before, during, and after. Before, during, and after any process in the world. We have to chop up this elephant in three domains actually. Before, during, and after. Before starting that project, Joseph, what things we have to make sure? I truly need your participation to discuss, because otherwise you will be fed up to listen me only. Let's
Okay.
make it more interactive.
Yes, hello.
Yeah. So what do you think? What should we do, before we start this project?
I think it should start with the people who's working under the company. They
Okay.
should also help the company by having the knowledge, pursuing to study about the safety protocols about chemicals like this.
Excellent. Okay. And what kind of documentation we need to prepare, or might be our customer can ask him time to time.
Documentation. What you're asking about documentation about the chemicals?
Yeah, like this container, we got the project, but at each stage, even sometime for each activity, we need to have an evidence, who did it, what time he did it, and what kind of hazards were there and how we control them. So for all these reporting structure, of course, some documentation and formats are involved, which we truly need to fill and submit back to our customer, to show, to prove that we are following their SOPs.
Yes. From my knowledge, I know that there should be like a safety data sheet, something like this. That will be the monitoring sheet for the chemicals coming in and out.
Excellent. Okay. So we'll make sure, first of all, we would have a joint site inspection. We will make sure, what is the site, where is that, tank, what is the location nearby, what things are there, how many pipelines are connected with this tank, what energies we need to isolate, what type of permits we require, the complete work permit system as per our customer, like Saudi Aramco, we have to follow. Either we are going to get hot work permit or confined space entry permit, or even EULB, like equipment opening line break, or kind of a release permit, the previous name in their database. And then either we are going to provide HIP, like hazard identification plan, or are we going to submit ERP also, emergency response plan? And of course, under the work permit system, nobody, our customer will not sign the permit, especially the issuer, until we give him all the relevant documentation, the supporting documentation. And that's why sometimes the CVs, the profiles of our welders, or like you mentioned, whoever is going to work, including our work permit receiver, or the safety officer, or the project, or the safety manager of that project, or might be the project manager of that project. So they have right to verify everything to make sure that the right person for the right job is being used and the right set of documentation is being followed as per their SOPs, as per their general instructions, or as per international standards, of course. And now these documentations, of course, giving us a foundation to start that project. And now the first step is, of course, we need to remove that liquid, either it's petrol or diesel, because we need to make empty of this tank, otherwise we can't do anything until we remove all the remaining energy. And these energies can be chemicals, can be hydraulic, can be pneumatic, can be electrical, or any kind of mechanical. Whatever type of energy is connected with that this tank, we have to isolate, we have to remove, we have to disconnect, because we need a safe haven for our team members, especially the welders, to start this project and do the welding, by using appropriate tools, so nothing will go wrong. And how are we gonna make sure what kind of toolbox meetings we're gonna do? How are we gonna make sure how we will go enter, what equipment we are going to use, what PPs we require, and most importantly, how are we gonna make sure that all the time the LEL is 0% all the time, because hot work is not allowed if LEL is above than 0%. So these are the challenges, on ground challenges we have to ensure. So otherwise, anytime, anything, any terrible thing can happen, God forbid. So it's not like our client's property safety or their safety, even our safety, because in the confined space, it's a confined space. It's a oil tank, so it's a confined space. And we don't get second chance most of the time in the confined space, God forbid. That is why before you go inside, take all the necessary precautions, put all the controls, identify all the hazards, and make sure proactively, prevention is better than cure. So proactively, you need to make sure nothing will go wrong, God forbid. And now either we are going to wash this container like water washer steaming, or we will just going for purging, because bringing this LEL at 0%, a lot of experiments we need to do as per the GI of Saudi Aramco or as per international standards like OSHA regulations. So for purging, if we use nitrogen, and then how the gas testing is important, and who would be our authorized gas tester to make sure, because I told you, this gas means the invisible chemicals, they are the most difficult to manage, especially in high hazardous industries like in chemicals, in oil and gas, in pharmaceutical, in paper industry, in food companies. They are most difficult to manage, because that's why I'm discussing in more practical manner, because otherwise theories you can get from Google, you can have plenty of knowledge from different online libraries actually, but the experience what we are sharing to each other, no book is written even until today. So that's why it's important to learn from each other, and I'm here just as a facilitator, not as a trainer actually. I'm just facilitating so we can prepare a ground where we can learn from each other by sharing our experience. The theories are already there. I mean, we are discussing already, right?
Yes.
Okay, now the point is, the moment LEL is 0%, the moment gas testing is done. Now, gas testing, how many times? Or what should be the frequency of gas testing? Or when we have to do gas testing? This is another question, because we are dealing with invisible monsters, kind of invisible enemies. Either we are going to do gas testing before first entry. Yes, of course we have to do. After the breaks, indeed we have to do. Whenever the condition change, or whenever we are taking break after every 2 hours, we have to do gas testing, right? Or as per the nature of the project, might be the continuous gas monitoring. Now, for gas monitoring, what method we are going to use? Either we will rely on the pocket monitors, gas detectors, or we will rely on portable or the fixed gas monitors. Again, another. I hope you got the point. So each stage, we have to think about for each activity and each process, before, during, and after, how are we going to manage it? And before is more important. Of course, during is also critical, but before is more important, because proactively you can take all the precautions to avoid or to minimize the chances or probability of any incident. Because ultimately our employees are our greatest strength, mashallah. And once the welding is done, then again, you know, we have to make sure head count is there, nothing is left, housekeeping is well done, all connections are restored, and now site is given back to Saudi Aramco, and Saudi Aramco PID, QID, a lot of divisions are there. So they'll double check that our project execution is excellent with no issues. So always they'll be calling us, me and Joseph, you know, come and do this project. So this is how you build up your credibility, your goodwill. And Ramco award you several projects actually. That is a game of quality assurance and quality validation. Yes, price war is also started, but ultimately still with this price war, still they will not compromise with safety, quality and credibility. They will not compromise for sure. So STS we required against every chemical, either we have 20 chemicals or 100 chemicals. For each chemical, we truly need safety data sheet and should be understood by our employees, must be displayed, not in the cabinets, must be displayed at the right area, at the right location where the people are using these chemicals or being stored. And even at the notice boards, no harm to mention. So let's the awareness to be published so people can learn every day actually. Now let's talk about a little bit about the labels, kind of, you know, the color codings and different kind of symbols, what we see on the label. So as per NFPA, if we talk about red, blue and yellow or even white, so they are talking something to us. Let's take an example of red. Red is presenting flammability. Now, if we put one number inside, might be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, as per the nature or composition or, you know, the LER or UEL of that chemical, accordingly, they will mention the number. Imagine if the number is 4. Let's take an example of H2S in shape of Gaussian. If you will see 4 inside red, that means extremely flammable. This chemical, like this H2S chemical in shape of gas, is extremely flammable. Now, if you see 4 in blue, that means extremely hazardous to our health.
Yes.
And if you see 4 in yellow also, so extremely reactive as well, right?
Yes.
And some other, you know, in the white, we also share some reactivity with other chemicals, but we truly have to be careful, at least for these three. Clearly, our all employees should understand whenever they see 4 for any chemical in shape of liquid or gas or whatsoever, just make sure they understand what that 4 is talking about. If that chemical is extremely flammable, that means avoid smoking, avoid any hot work, avoid, you know, don't play with it.
Yes.
And H2S, you know, it's not harmful until you play with it. That's why the reactivity you will see 0 in CHB of Saudi Aramco. You will see 0 in yellow color because they clearly, because until you play with H2S, until you you know, put something or like excavating or drilling or, you know, playing with nature, will not react actually. That's why health, flammability and reactivity, and of course for personal protection. So these 4 colors must be understood by all our employees. Now these are some of the hazards which we already discussed, like toxic, flammable, reactive, chemical burns, irritant and corrosive. So that means the chemicals are not only dangerous for the environment or for our human bodies, even they are very much dangerous even for the metals. Like let's take an example, you purchase 100 pipelines or the 100 pipelines, like maybe one length is 50 feet or 100 feet. So 100 pipes you purchase, but unfortunately coating was not effective. And the manufacturer told this pipe, the shelf life or expiry date is 20 years. That means you can use this pipe for next 20 years. But because the coating was not good, or inside H2S and plenty of other toxic gases were there, so this coating was not resistible into that environment. And since they are corrosive or extremely corrosive, so within next 3 to 4 years, the pipelines are fully rusted or have corrosion. And imagine what would happen to that business. What would happen to the investors? Will they give us money again? Because they invested that money for 20 years, but because of poor safety system or poor understanding of safety requirements, we demolished these pipes within 3 to 4 years. The money was invested for 20 years, but we wasted within 3 to 4 years. So the shredded confidence of investors, that means this business is going to be over. Otherwise, bring another investor, convince them. And this is how sometimes the businesses are being closed, because of these things. That's why safety is our own need. It's our business continuity requirement. It's not like only ethical responsibility or only, to showing to our customer. This is our own need actually. If our top management or if our investors truly understand what we are talking about, and here we also required some convincing power, to guide them properly. Why we are talking these things actually. So yes, against every hazard, we must be familiar how to control, either through engineering controls or through some like administrative controls or PPs, or we will eliminate or substitute, like if you are using solvent based paint and you believe it is extremely flammable or having some, more chances of fire incidents. So why don't you go with water based, which is less corrosive, less flammable. So you find out the substitute or you eliminate, or we will not use this chemical anymore because it is more terribly flammable and also corrosive. And you find out the substitute. Otherwise, you put some engineering controls, administrative, like work instruction or kind of like MSDS, all our trainings, toolbox meetings, everything comes under administrative control.
Come.
And the last one is the PPs, the right set of PPs. Yes, please.
Hello. Yes.
Okay, so these are some of the controls. Make sure you have CHB, especially for Saudi Aramco, if you're working with them. Make sure you have CHB, like chemical hazard bulletin. HazCom labels must be there. Eliminate or substitute or correct usage, correct storage, correct issuance, correct handling, in other words, correct PPs and spill containment equipment. Because sometimes, like if you have one drum and you're issuing, so make sure you have second containment, So if any drop is coming down,
Yes, sir.
yeah. That's why the HazCom labels, they are important all the way around, as per OSHA also, but I told you, every chemical should talk to us. That is called hazard communication, through labels, through some certain guidelines, through some warning signs. That area, that chemical should talk to us as per OSHA's hazard communication standard, SCS. And now the good thing has happened, the HCS and also GHS, they are now collaborated to remove the confusions from the market. So now the labels are, the similar kind of labeling is being used, so easily people can understand and remember as well. Now, what is included actually in the HazCom labels? That's we truly need to understand. The reason is, this is the label mostly our employees are reading. Let's take an example. Will you buy any medicine without a label? Any syrup? Joseph? Can you hear me? So of course you will not buy any medicine without label, even a water bottle without a label, you know.
احمد الخبط سيارتي راح ورد سيارتي اقسم كروبو وكل شيء.
Hi Joseph.
ايش مسوي؟
Yes.
Okay, so these
Hello, yes, I'm
SDS
here.
labels, they are important one. We discussed already. Now these are the pictograms, you know, which our employees must be capable to understand, like the health hazards or physical hazards. Like if there is toxic, this is the label for toxic. Okay, and corrosive, this label must be, and no harm to display these labels everywhere for their better understanding, rather than just rely on the container. We can print them and place on different places, especially even the notice boards. So let them continuously see and remember the meaning of these labels, you know. Same way, acutely toxic and carcinogen. On the other side, physical hazard, we have reactive. This is the symbol, explosive, compressed gas, and also flammable. And no harm to guide them. The HCS pictogram and hazards like health hazard, flame, exclamation mark, exploding bomb, or corrosion, or even gas cylinder, oxidizers, or acute toxicity and acute toxicity. So these labels, no harm to guide our employees, especially whoever is mostly dealing the chemicals. We can print and display, as I told you, such kind of labels, even at the notice boards, just for the awareness of our employees, continuous awareness. Okay, so that's already we discussed fire hazard, health hazard, and instability. And there is specific hazard, maybe severe, serious, moderate, or slight, or minimal. So the numbers are critical here. If 4 is there, extremely flammable, extremely hazard. Otherwise, certain protection mark we can do. So NFPA diamond also showing, you know, like health hazards, fire hazards, specific hazard, or instability within the colors, with the numbers. So, okay, Joseph from